Get cool stuff for what you were going to do anyway. Drink beer. With Buy Beer, Get Gear from Labatt, you can just snap a photo of your receipt and upload it to the website to rack up points for exclusive merch. Get points for every purchase, whether you're grabbing a pint on draft, a case for a party, or a tall boy at the stadium. Any size, any product, anywhere you buy Labatt. Buy beer, get gear. Sign up now at rewards.labattusa.com.
Radio.
Hey, Dabo Sweeney, congrats. I got you in, baby.
This is entertainment. People pay to watch this.
Pass to a cutting Hiltz. He darts in. Oh!
People actually subscribe.
All across central New York.
Time expired! Syracuse has done it!
It's Drive Time with your host, Tim Leonard.
Hey, guess what? I'm getting wise, hey!
We welcome you into Drive Time. A new week of Drive Time on a Monday in central New York, where we have lots to discuss. Feels like this is going to be one of the biggest weeks of Syracuse sports in a while because of all the things that are happening off the court we anticipate this week. When will we find out about a new athletic director at Syracuse? Feels like that could be in this hour, could be tonight, could be tomorrow, could be Wednesday. It feels like it's coming very soon. We're all on edge. We're all eager with anticipation for the news of who will be the new athletic director at Syracuse University. And then with that comes the ACC tournament. Orange basketball tomorrow against SMU. If you care about watching the game still, that's a 4:30 start tomorrow from Charlotte. We'll have you covered pregame and postgame, and it could be the final game of the Adrian Autry era. SMU, the 11 seed, the Cuse, the 14 seed. SMU has dropped 4 games in a row. They've had some injury issues. They really need a win to stay on the right side of the bubble or stay on the bubble or increase their chances of making the NCAA tournament. Remember, Syracuse did beat SMU in the regular season inside the Dome. It is a pretty good matchup for them if you actually want to dive into it, although the chances of Syracuse going on a run to the NCAA tournament after what we've seen in the last 5 games, after what we've seen really in the totality of this ACC season, seems incredibly unlikely, and there really won't be much to talk about in the way of the games this week, I'm anticipating. We'll see how it goes. If Syracuse does win tomorrow at 4:30, they would then play at 2:30 against 6 seed Louisville. Louisville's top player, Michael Brown, is sort of up in the air, questionable for the ACC tournament. Interesting how a lot of teams in the ACC are dealing with injury issues at the minute, and a lot of the top contenders are kind of trending down as we go into March and postseason play, which, if you're a Syracuse fan, you should be rooting for the ACC to show themselves nicely in the NCAA tournament, and it feels like Duke certainly is one of the top contenders to win it all. But when you look at the likes of UNC and Clemson and NC State and even SMU, who we're talking about, even Louisville dealing with some injury issues, there are plenty of teams that are trending down, stock market down right now on the ACC and their likelihood of maybe having multiple Final Four contenders or Final Four teams this year. But certainly it feels like Duke has a very good shot, even though they do have some injury issues themselves, at winning it all. But it's good to be into March, even though it isn't necessarily the March that we were hoping for from a Syracuse perspective. It's going to be a very fascinating week, and we're going to have a lot to discuss. It seems like as early as tomorrow, maybe, on some of the breaking news, some of the things that we've been waiting to get out there in the open, and some of the things that we've been hypothesizing about for weeks, and I'm just happy to have actual news to react to. Let's hope that we will have some news on the athletic director front sooner rather than later, and then from there, it seems like as soon as Syracuse's season is officially put to bed, whether that is if they lose tomorrow, if they lose on Wednesday, whenever they play their final game in the ACC tournament, it feels likely that a decision will then be publicly made on Adrian Autry getting dismissed. And there have been some other coaching carousel news across the last couple days and some things to get into. Providence, there's heavy reporting that Kim English will be done after 3 seasons. Right before we come on the air here, it seems like Arizona State, plenty are reporting that they have had a conversation with Bobby Hurley, and when the season is over for Arizona State, Bobby Hurley will be out at Arizona State, which that one's obvious. We knew that was coming. Bobby Hurley has talked openly in press conferences as early as a month or two ago in this season about how he seems to know that his time is done here. And Adrian Autry had an interesting press conference after the very tough loss to Pittsburgh on Senior Day on Saturday in overtime. He was advocating for the idea that they have made some small progress, which, of course, irritated the fan base. And he did say not necessarily in the win column, of course. He said that the only year that they have lived up to the orange standard in the win column was his first season, which I'm not sure they really did live up to the orange standard that year, but they did exceed expectations in year one. And since year one, of course, it has not been good for Coach Autry or Syracuse basketball, and we're going on 5 straight years now of the orange likely not being in the NCAA tournament, barring an absolute miracle run of the likes of NC State a couple years ago where they would have to win the conference tournament. So we're off and running here on our Burdick BMW of Cicero opening drive. Want to tackle all kinds of different topics today. We can talk about Coach Autry and his press conference. We can talk about the Pittsburgh game if you'd like some. We can talk about potential candidates to replace Adrian Autry like we've been doing on this show for the better part of the last 2 months, unfortunately. 315-437-7644 if you'd like to chime in at all this afternoon. I'd also like to talk about the current AD opening and what we are expecting there and what to make of the story this weekend that had everyone up in arms from Syracuse.com. They got a chance to speak to a candidate in the athletic director opening who is Heather Lyke, an internal candidate who I have heard from plenty of you that you really don't want Heather Lyke to be the next athletic director at Syracuse. We can certainly discuss that. I agree that I don't think that would be a good hire, and that would not be the direction I would go if I was given the power to make the decision on who is the next AD at Syracuse. I have advocated for Nick Carparelli, who Syracuse.com has also reported that Nick Carparelli has taken a couple interviews, and I've heard similar things, that Nick Carparelli is interested in the job, and we'll see if maybe he is the guy that is announced tomorrow. I don't necessarily think it's going to be Heather Lyke, even though the article this weekend, of course, led to a lot of you very fearful that maybe that was them sort of setting the table for Heather Lyke to be named the new athletic director. I'll say this just briefly as we open it up on our Burdick BMW of Cicero opening drive, and I see we've already got some callers, and we'll get to you in just a minute. 315-437-7644 if you'd like to call in this afternoon. We're here with you for the next hour for ESPN 44. On the Heather Lyke story and the narrative and the discussion around it, I will say this just as a matter of fact from my vantage point. I don't think that that would be the right hire, Heather Lyke being the next athletic director at Syracuse. But she is a candidate. It's very obvious that she is a candidate right now, and she likely is being interviewed, and she is being looked at, which, whether you like that or not, she's a candidate, and Syracuse.com was approached by a candidate for the athletic director position that is open here at Syracuse, and they agreed to talk to that candidate and write about her take, and I think that is good journalism. I've seen it out there that it's bad journalism that they interacted with Heather Lyke. The fact of the matter is she's being considered for the job, it seems, from what we can glean. And if she is being considered for the job, then it's their right to talk to her about the job. And a lot of you feel it's bad journalism because you don't want her to be the next AD. It's not about what you want. Syracuse.com is not an establishment or is not trying to get their opinions out there on who is the next AD. For all we know, they might agree with you that if your stance is Heather Lyke shouldn't be the next AD, maybe they feel that way too. But if your stance is they should not talk to Heather Lyke, but they should talk to Nick Carparelli, that's bad journalism. That implies bias in what they're covering. They did report that Nick Carparelli is a candidate, and they wrote a profile on Nick Carparelli. And they're reporting that Heather Lyke wants the job, and they wrote a profile on Heather Lyke. That's just kind of journalism, guys. There's no reason to be upset about it. And I don't think anything in the article was wrong. And my understanding is Heather Lyke is at Syracuse to lend her expertise and provide some ideas. And of course, some of you are going to scoff at the idea of expertise because all of you have it in your head now that she would be the worst candidate ever. And her track record at Pittsburgh was not good. I understand why you would not be rooting for her to get the position. But it's not crazy to think that Syracuse University, who hired her to be a special advisor to the athletic director, Heather Lyke, who was an athletic director at previous stops, including Pittsburgh, an ACC school, and was hired to come to Syracuse when, let's face it, Syracuse financially, like every other school right now, is looking for ways to cut back. They created a new position. And I think it's fair to assume that when she came on board, she was probably thinking, hey, I might be here for a year. I might learn the ropes and be getting groomed to be the next athletic director. And of course, Heather Lyke wants the job. And of course, it's fine for her to say she wants the job and express what she would do to Syracuse.com some. And it does make sense that even if she doesn't get this job at Syracuse, she would want, from a public relations standpoint, her message to look a little bit better than what the current one is, which has really taken a hit, not just because of the lawsuit at Pittsburgh and her whole track record at Pittsburgh, and a lot of you voicing frustration at the idea of maybe her being in the running for the job, but also the complaint, HR complaint that was filed and apparently resolved, according to the Daily Orange and what Syracuse University has posted since. I don't really have an issue with the HR complaint. From what I know of that, I don't think that should really be something that should add fuel to the fire here of why Heather Lyke should not be the next AD at Syracuse. But I think her track record at Pittsburgh was spotty for sure. And I'll say it, if they hire her tomorrow, if they hire her on Wednesday, I don't think that would be the right hire, given what we know about the candidates. Now, I'm not in the meetings. I'm not interviewing the candidates. I don't know the full story. But given what we know right now, I would prefer to hear the news tomorrow be Nick Carparelli, or the news on Wednesday be Nick Carparelli as the next AD at Syracuse, as opposed to Heather Lyke. That's our Burdick BMW of Cicero opening drive. Let's go to the phone lines right now, and your phone call could be next as well at 315-437-7644. Let's go to Dro in Clay. Hey, Dro.
Hey, man. Hey, good stuff there. So, listen, I'll start with Heather Lyke. Absolutely would be a disaster of a hire on all proportions. It would be the death of Syracuse athletics. I get that they had to do the interview because they're journalists. I'm not going to complain about them in the interview. I'm just saying is that she can't be hired. There's no one can convince me otherwise. It's the death of SU athletics if she gets hired. I think it's that bad of a hire. That's all I'm saying.
What are the things that concern you the most about her? Let's nail down on it a little bit. And I think that's perfectly fine for you to have an opinion on it, and I hear you.
Right. I mean, I don't want to get in trouble with Jim Boeheim and not be able to call the show anymore. I'm joking. So listen, the human resources complaint. When you have HR coming at you, that's not a good thing. Okay. Second thing, you don't fundraise. Here's what gets me. Volleyball facility at Pitt for $240 million, and you only fundraise $12 million. What are we doing here? She just doesn't think right. Thinks all sports are equal. Listen, I'm not trying to say football, basketball, bigger than other sports, but if you're going to play Division I sports, football, then basketball are your money makers. That's the reality. that the fact that she spent $240 million on a volleyball facility only raised $12 million.
I'm not sure it was just volleyball, Dro. I can confirm that, but I understand what you're getting at. Yeah, just for point of clarity.
Not smart. We don't need her. We need Nick Caparelli. If I'm saying his name wrong, I apologize.
Caparelli, you're fine.
It ends in a vowel. He's Italian. Get him on board. That's it. Done deal.
Okay.
Vito will agree with me too. He's a paisan of Vito's. I mean, what else do you want? Okay, you need Nick. That's it. As for the coach, the next coach at Syracuse, my humble opinion is I believe Sienna's winning the tournament tomorrow night. And I believe that Sienna will be the NCAA tournament.
And you want Jerry because of that? Oh, we lost Dro. I was going to ask him, and I just don't understand the take of if Jerry wins tomorrow night, then you are in on the idea of Jerry being considered for the next head coach. But if he loses, then you completely rule it out. And I'm not saying that's where Dro was going, but Dro, try and call back. Sorry if I think it was a connection issue there. We lost you. 315-437-7644. If you want to finish that thought and call back, feel free. It looks like he's calling us back right now. So we'll get back to Dro in a second. But I don't really get the narrative that if Jerry loses on a buzzer beater tomorrow night, you can't consider him. I think Jerry has done a very good job to this point. As the current head coach at Siena in his second season, he has them on the doorstep of making the tournament, and that's a big accomplishment. And obviously, if they make the tournament and they were to upset someone as a 15 seed, then you start to reevaluate. Then Jerry McNamara is like one of the hotter names in coaching because that's the Cinderella story of all Cinderella stories this year. But that seems very unlikely that they would actually win a game in the tournament. It will be fascinating to see how it goes tomorrow night for Jerry and Siena. Dro, I think we got you back. Sorry we lost you there. But what were you saying on Jerry? If they win tomorrow night, are you of the camp then he then should be considered for the job?
I think – so here's what I'm saying. I believe it's Brian. And I'm not saying it's a done deal. I'm going to speculate here. We had a recruit over the weekend, Bell, 5-star.
Yeah.
Okay. Why? Just answer. Think about this. Why would he come to Syracuse to visit? For what reason? He had pictures all over Instagram or whatever it was of him in a Syracuse uniform, but with no Syracuse coaches. He's also being recruited by the coach at South Florida, who happens to be Brian H.
Yeah.
Why would he come?
Brian
to
Hodgson,
Why would he come to Syracuse? For what other reason?
Well, he's a 2028 recruit.
I get that, but yes, true.
And according to, let me just jump in. According to Mike McAllister, who you had on earlier today, he spoke to him, and Tay Bell, whether you want to believe this or not, he said that he's been trying to get up to Syracuse for a while. It just hasn't worked out. The coaching staff, current coaching staff, was one of the first to offer him. So he just really wanted to check it out, and he hasn't had the time to do it yet. And obviously, he probably understands he's not crazy, and he gets that Adrian Autry is probably no longer going to be the head coach here shortly at Syracuse, and so does his dad, who is an former NBA player, Raja Bell. I'm sure that he's just interested in Syracuse, and I think you're right to maybe connect some dots that, okay, if Brian Hodgson is the next head coach, he at least already has a relationship with him. Maybe you're onto something, but according to Mike McAllister, he's had this in the works for a while to have the visit. He just hasn't been able to figure it out yet.
Okay, well,
until
Mike
this weekend.
Trust.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think that if Jerry advances, that he will be considered. But at the end of the day, I just don't know if the university is going to hire Jerry. And I feel bad saying that. I think it's because of the whole fan base. I don't know what the donors think, but do you want people from the Boeheim family tree still coaching right now? Because it did not go well with Autry. And I think that's the frustration of the fan base. You should maybe do a poll and ask point blank everyone that calls, do you want Jerry McNamara as the next coach?
Yeah, we got a lot of callers earlier today on Orange Nation from a lot of people that do want Jerry, but obviously that's you're hearing from a portion of the fan base there. From what I've gathered online, there's a lot of people that don't want Jerry. So it's fascinating. It feels like the people I actually talk to over the phone lines on this show, on other shows, they seem to be more into the idea of an in-family candidate or Jerry. And there are plenty of people, of course, that really admire Jerry as a player and think he would be a good fit here at Syracuse for a lot of reasons. But it does feel like there's also a portion of the fan base online that would be very frustrated if it's Jerry McNamara. I guess ultimately, though, the fan base is just going to be frustrated if they don't win games. And the administration at Syracuse, the people making that decision, they just have to go into tunnel vision and try and figure out who is the best coach for winning games, for bringing in the most money, for bringing in the best roster, for getting this thing back on track. If they truly believe that's Jerry, and Jerry succeeds in year one, then all those people that hate the idea right now will jump on board. You know that,
Correct.
Of course.
Right, exactly. I'm going to still go on record. I think Brian Hodgson's our next coach.
And I think that would be a good hire if they go that route, from what I know right now. But The interesting thing with that, Dro, is it's going to probably cost you a lot of money to bring in Brian Hodgson, just because there's a lot of other jobs that are going to be open, of course, and when you're talking about LSU or Oklahoma, if they are interested in Brian Hodgson, now we're connecting dots here. Maybe LSU doesn't open, and we'll see how everything falls into place. But it seems like Brian Hodgson is a name that is going to get other offers, going to get other interviews, going to drive up his price. So he's probably going to cost more from a head coach salary standpoint than a Jerry McNamara or maybe even a Mike Hopkins. Not saying that should scare them off, but that's just something that they're probably going to have to consider.
Well, the university better figure it out and get the right coach in there. That's
no
all.
doubt.
Listen, great talking to you, and we'll be in touch, man.
All right. Thank you, Dro. That's Dro and Clay kicking us off on the show this afternoon. We'll take a timeout. Your phone call could be next at 315-437-7644. We're back with more Drive Time. What up, chat? Yeah, Dro was laughing pretty good at his joke. That's the thing we have to consider here with everything. There are a lot of people that are in the position of going into a carousel of some sort, like Heather, like someone in the chat bringing up, she wants to build her profile so she can get a Big Ten job. Technically, yes, she wants to be AD here, but only as a stepping stone. Not that long ago, Heather Like was like a big name in terms of Ohio State was interviewing her for the AD position when she was at Pittsburgh, and she got off to a good start at Pittsburgh. She was considered kind of a rising star or a trailblazer. It obviously has changed on her. She was fired. You don't see ADs fired very much. I mean, you might see an AD that is dismissed or they announce they're retiring and there's more to the story than that. But to see Pittsburgh fires Heather Like, that's pretty rare. So it clearly did not go well. Clearly her stock is much lower. And whether it's here at Syracuse or not, she's looking to elevate her stock again. So, of course, when an HR complaint is filed against her or there's a lot of negative press, she wants to get out there and talk. The phone's ringing out there, Kyle. So, we'll see. I tend to think she probably won't get it, but we will find out soon enough. If she does get it, we'll have a conversation about it tomorrow, and you guys can all yell at me or vent or whatever. Seems like it's going to be tomorrow. I don't know. I'm just guessing. There is an SU football NIL, yes, bowling ball. But I think it's up to the school ultimately how they disperse the money, rev share, NIL, etc. F you too, Kev. That made me laugh. Kyle's not checked out. It's a tough job out there. The phone doesn't actually ring, so it's kind of hard to actually see what's going on. It just flashes. And our phone screener has just had a mind of its own lately. as conservative as Syracuse. Yeah, I think she made an impression on Kent Syverud. I mean, that article talked about it, and that's what I've heard too. I also think the narrative that she only cares about Olympic sports, I mean, she did kind of try and get ahead of that or change that narrative in the article. I think her and Kent Syverud were in lockstep on how important it is to position yourself for a Super League. And I think John Wildtech really had a lot of value on how can we get football in a position where we can make the cut for a Super League. And while we're in the year 2026, and that might not be a conversation until 2030, so it's not really something we're talking about a ton on these airwaves all the time, that is the single biggest conversation for any AD right now that is of a power conference school. Where do I stack up in a super conference? Oh no, Kyle losing the fist fight. Who's on here, Kyle? It just says pending. Just shoot me a text, I guess. Sorry, man. The screener hates us.
ESPN 97.7 and 100.1. Watch live on CuseSportsTalk.com.
Welcome back into Drive Time on a Monday afternoon. Going to be an interesting week of shows here in Syracuse. Get the feeling that big news is coming. We have one of the 3 boxes checked for the 3 transitional positions, assuming that the men's basketball coaching position does open up here shortly for Syracuse. We're waiting on number 2. Chancellor was number 1. We're waiting on AD. Remember, Matt Norlander had that report of CBS Sports that AD would be announced by March 10th. Well, that is tomorrow. So I'm sure all of us will be rioting if there is no news by tomorrow. I'm ready for more news. I'm sure all of you are as well. So we're talking about that. And then once we react to that, I'm sure the next conversation will be reacting to who they should add as the next head coach of men's basketball. And it does feel like that is coming here shortly. And it seems like as soon as Syracuse's season is over, we will probably hear the official word on that. So frustrating. It's tough to watch the team right now. It's sort of sad to watch. I mean, in a way, that was a fitting end to the Adrian Autry era for home games, at least. What we saw on Saturday was a fitting end, really, to J.J. Starling's career, too. And I hate that I'm saying that, but that's just the reality of it. It has been not a very memorable last 3 seasons for Syracuse basketball under Coach Autry. And I'm not sure many coaches would have succeeded in the position that he was in. And I've said that a lot. So with respect to Red, I don't think he's as bad of a coach as maybe some of you do think, but clearly he's made some mistakes as the head coach, and there are some regrets that he has, I'm sure. And most likely in the business of college sports, when you're not winning games, when you're not living up to the standard, most likely it seems like Syracuse is going to move on from him and then begin the conversation of how do they get this thing back on track and who should they hire. We will go back to the phone lines right now. If you'd like to call in for ESPN 44 is the phone number to call, 437-7644. Let's go to John in Liverpool. Hey, John.
Yeah, Tim. This afternoon's show, I thought I heard you say that North Carolina State has a basketball payroll of upwards of $12 million.
That's what I've heard.
Correctly?
Yeah. I think people down there are reporting down in the neighborhood of NC State that their budget this year is about $12 million on their men's basketball roster.
Okay, explain how that works, because you get a pie of $20 million to cut up, and 75% of it's going to football.
Not for everyone. That's what is out there by some schools as what they have elected to do. You can do with that money whatever you want, John. So you have the ability to give $20.5 million this year in revenue sharing. So if you are a school like NC State and you want to give more of a slice of the pie from rev share to basketball, then you can do that. If you're a school that wants to give more to women's basketball, you can do that. If you're Syracuse and you have history in men's lacrosse, I have no idea what their men's lacrosse program is getting, but maybe lacrosse here is getting more than lacrosse, say, at some other school that doesn't prioritize it as much. So you do with that money what you want. Most schools that we've heard of are following the 75% to football, 15% to men's basketball, 5% to women's basketball, and then 5% to other sports, whether that's Olympic sports, baseball, etc. So NC State, between NIL donations, third-party donations, and their rev share budget, it's reported they're around $12 million.
The key would be, as you said, the other donations. And apparently they must have other people that are heavy donators.
Sure.
Because, like you said, it's a flexible thing, but it probably is 75% is going into football. So probably these are independent donors that are contributing.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're getting a lot of their budget from NIL. I think that tells you that they're in a comfortable spot NIL-wise. But also, I mean, look at it from a Syracuse perspective. You're a Syracuse fan. What would you like them to do next year in terms of the pie chart for rev share? It's obviously a tough question to answer, but basketball for NC State, they view themselves, even though they've had some success in football. I talked to people down there. They want to be a basketball school, and they were struggling with Kevin Keats. They brought in a new head coach. They paid a lot of money for that head coach and Will Wade, so they tried to supplement with resources. I'm sure there's a lot of Syracuse fans right now that would like the rev share pie next year to not follow the exact 75-15-5 because they feel like that would be shorting men's basketball when you're considered a basketball school.
Thanks, Sam.
All right. Appreciate it, John. That's John in Liverpool. That's a fascinating conversation to get into right now. And it's confusing, right? That you pull from revenue sharing and then you have that money and you combine it with your NIL money. From what we understand, next year, the revenue share pie is going to be up 4% from what it is this year. And that's just based on the evolution of college and how much money they're bringing into athletics, and it's going to continue to rise. So in 2035, if we're still in this model of revenue sharing, it's going to be a lot more money than $20.5 million as the maximum that schools can give. Now, I should note also that schools have the option to not give the maximum. Like Kelvin Sampson at Houston has come out and said, my school is not giving the maximum in rev share, and we're behind because of that. We know from Syracuse, John Wildsack made a point to tell us on these airwaves, they are giving the maximum they can, which this year is 20.5. So next year it will be 21.3 million, we expect, with a 4% increase. There was a report from Matt Norlander of CBS Sports yesterday after the news of Damon Stoudemire, maybe somewhat surprising news that Georgia Tech is moving on from Damon Stoudemire. Georgia Tech's season is over. They did not make the ACC tournament. He's been there 3 years. He was kind of an outside-the-box hire. It has not worked out. They're cutting ties with Damon Stoudemire, and they, like everyone says, after they fire a coach, because they want to bring in the best coaches as possible for an interview for the next coach, they say we're going to make a commitment or upgrade our resources next year for the basketball team. This is Georgia Tech. And the report yesterday from Matt Norlander is they are going to dedicate about $3.5 million in rev share to their roster next year. And he added some more of his color on it and said, if you don't get to $6 million right now, then you can't really be competitive in the transfer portal. So Georgia Tech saying $3.5 million is going to come from rev share, and obviously they're hoping to add to that with third-party donations through NIL. That would be a little bit more than 15% of $21.3 million. So that's them saying we're going to go a little bit over the 15%. Now, Georgia Tech is coming off a very good football season, and Georgia Tech is trending up in football, although they did have kind of a down off season, and we'll see if maybe they take a step back next year. But they're in a good spot football-wise. So maybe they're at a point where they're trying to take a little from football and give that to men's basketball. So let's have that conversation for Syracuse. What's gotten lost here a little bit is next year is a huge year for Syracuse football as well. every year right now is a huge year for Syracuse football because football is the big driver in terms of revenue for any college sport, but also the super conference that we keep talking about. And for those that aren't totally in line or totally in lockstep with what I'm saying when I say the word super conference, there's a great theory out there amongst a lot of athletic directors, amongst a lot of coaches, that come the year 2030 when these TV contracts and conference contracts are up and there's more flexibility for another line of conference realignment, everyone's favorite thing, then we might just see at that point the SEC and the Big Ten say, screw everyone else, we're going to combine forces, we're going to create a super conference that's maybe 35 schools. Maybe we pick out a couple others like a Clemson or a Florida State from the ACC that have good history, and we just bring the top 35, top 40, whatever it is, football programs, and they're in basically Division I, and then there's a minor league conference. And Syracuse obviously would be in jeopardy of falling into a minor league conference. And it is very important for Syracuse to be good right now at football. And if Fran Brown does not have a good year next year, say they don't hit their Vegas win total over-under, which I haven't looked, but maybe it's in the neighborhood of 6 wins when the dust settles, and we're talking about football season, which feels like a far cry from where we are right now. But at some point, we will be talking about football, and a lot of you will be caring about how good football is next year. If they struggle next year and Fran Brown is on the hot seat, then we'll be having the conversation of, man, I wish they had more resources for the football program. So they have to weigh right now. The next AD has to weigh, how do I want to handle the revenue sharing? I have $21.3 million if we do go to the maximum, which if you're Syracuse, you pretty much have to go to the maximum to be competitive right now. So let's assume they go to the maximum again this season after they did it this year. And that's all we know about how they spent in rev share this year. You could have theories on what they did. I've heard stuff in terms of how they dispersed it, but I don't know anything for fact, and we probably won't know anything. They're a private institution, and no one, even that's a public institution, has the right to come out and say that necessarily. They don't have to do it. We've seen stuff come out, and some ADs have chosen to say we're following this 75-15-5-5 model. And when I say that 75% to football, 15% to men's basketball, 5% to women's basketball, 5% to other sports. It's a tough question right now. What does Syracuse do for rev share next year? How would you like them to divvy up the pie chart? And keep in mind, if your answer is all in on football and men's basketball, Title IX is a thing. Lawsuits are a thing. A women's basketball player could come in. There's great fear among colleges, as there should be, that if you don't give any revenue sharing money to any women's sports, that could open yourself up to a lawsuit. That could open yourself up to a Title IX conversation. So it's not as easy if you're someone that just believes, well, women's sports don't bring in the money, then you shouldn't give them any of the revenue share pie. If that's your belief, keep in mind that a lot of schools just can't do that, or they're not willing to do that because Title IX is a thing. And we haven't seen a lawsuit come from it, but I'm sure that they would come if a school went the route of just giving all the money to male athletes and no money to female athletes. It's a fascinating conversation. We'll get back to more of your comments on the phone lines as we continue. Got to work in a timeout here on Drive Time. You're listening to it on ESPN Radio or watching it on CuseSportsTalk.com.
This is our
And obviously the conversation, too, with football, they've kind of already made that determination because the roster is set for football. There's no spring transfer portal window. But still down the road for an AD. Hey, Kyra. What's up? Come on in. Who's on the line now, Kyle? Mark in New York City. Okay. We did just get an NIL caller, actually.
I was out there and I recorded it on the TV.
Oh, cool.
I was like, oh my God, wait, this is what I needed.
Yeah. You want to mic me up?
Yeah. Doesn't even matter. Oh, I don't know if it shows you
No, it's okay. Yeah, and I can hang around after if you need me to, and yeah, cool. Yeah, I talk about it way too much these days, so. Oh yeah. My Newhouse degree is failing me. I should remember that. Hang on. Yeah. All right, how's that? Is that fine? Cool. Yeah, here, take the back of this. Everyone say hi to Kyra in the chat. Kyra, what do you think? Women's basketball, 8 seed, 9 seed? Yeah. She's saying 9 seed. They can't hear you, but I'll relay your comments. Jen in the chat says great job this year on the games. So she says thanks, Jen. Kyra is doing a story on NIL, so she's hanging in here for the last couple segments. Ryan also said you did an amazing job this year. Got a lot of fans in here. Yeah. Yeah, offensive line still a little bit of concern, but we will see. I agree, Jen. You got to give some money to those sports. If you want to, Kyra, I could just send you like a copy of the show too for the for the caller or some, you know. Yeah. There you go. Cool. I agree, Dom. I don't really understand how schools are staying alive, or there needs to be some structure. There needs to be something put in place sooner rather than later, too. Did I bring food for Kyra? No. She says she's full. No need. Phone's ringing again, Kyle. Let's see if another NIL call coming. It's like they knew you were here. Welcome back into Drive Time on a Monday afternoon. Beautiful day in central New York. Getting a taste of spring. Tim Leonard with you, talking what could be a very important week for Syracuse athletics. We're all anticipating maybe some news sooner rather than later on the new athletic director, the replacement for John Wildtack, and then after that, of course, the news on the next basketball coach, men's basketball coach here at Syracuse. So let's go right back to the phone lines. We've got Mark in New York City who wants to jump on for a little bit. Hey, Mark, what's happening?
Hey, Tim. I'm not sure if I'm disagreeing with you or didn't read between the lines, but the role of the next athletic director isn't just to allocate. It's not really to allocate. Where do we do that $20.5 million, whatever the 4% is? The reality is, how do you use that as the launching pad to get a hell of a lot more?
Right.
Because the whole key is fundraising. So it's not, should Fran get 14 and then the basketball team get 5? They need to plot how to raise that capital and do it. So the allocation is probably borderline easy, follow the revenue, which makes it tough.
Well, I mean, you have a decision as the next AD to figure out how you want to divvy up the rev share. But certainly your point is well taken, Mark, that maybe the most important thing about being an athletic director right now is how can you enhance the NIL coffers and the third-party donations, and how do you do that best? I mean, I think Nick Carparelli, who we know is being considered for the job, is someone that has some background in fundraising. And if I was pursuing an athletic director, if I had the opportunity to ask them questions right now, that would be definitely top of mind. How well are they going to do at getting in a room and creating donations for NIL and for Syracuse athletics?
Yeah, and that's it, because it's like, you look at what Felicia's going to have to go through. It's like we have a superstar freshman who probably will get whatever the full women's basketball NIL allocation is. And we don't have a bird's right. I think there's a bird's rights in college yet at this point, right? So someone's got to go to a burned area and say, we got this transcendent kid. Do you want to sponsor or take it on and be great for the community? So the allocation is, I mean, that's super easy. You can get admins to almost do that. It's the building blocks on top of that. And everything that John said, we need to get corporate NIL and do those things.
Right, Micron.
That's everything. It's that, Micron.
Yep.
All the on that side of it, but it's the ability to fundraise is the reality of it, not how you can allocate the $20.5 million. I think it's almost relatively football drives the revenue. Everything else kind of follows suit. I think it's kind of obvious, no?
Sure, but I think some schools are going to approach it differently, right? That's all I'm saying is maybe some schools are going to give a lot more to women's basketball, and we don't know how Syracuse did it this year, but if you're Syracuse, you have to come up with a plan going forward like every school. So that's all I was saying is I think it still is a little bit of a fascinating conversation, just the rev share component, but obviously to get to your total roster budget, you need to be in a better position NIL-wise, and that's probably the bigger issue for them in the last couple years from a men's basketball standpoint, is they have not had the NIL budget going back to last year and the year before that. Certainly this year they were in a much better spot, and we've said that.
A much better spot, but this taken by I think it's John from Liverpool, figuring this stuff out. Providence, which we don't look at Providence anymore, right? Providence's NIL budget was $10.5 million this year,
right?
And ours would maybe $8 if we believe the Daily Orange in that side of it. So we need a whole host of rich people to step up across the landscape of sports and figure out how to generate this, the salary, how to deal with a never-ending salary cap at a time where we're not flush. But anyway, hopefully basketball goes better soon. But anyway, I just want to call and just kind of spar with you a little bit on it. But that's all.
All right, thanks for checking in. That's Mark in New York City. Let's go to Pat in Syracuse next. We've had Pat on both shows today. What's up, Pat?
Well, first of all, I want to agree with you and then push back a little bit. So
all right, I like
you
it.
have been critical. You've been critical of JJ and Red more than most, for sure. The first piece is some of the 2-cent minds don't realize anybody can pull up his stats at Notre Dame and see it was what it was. Freshmen coming in to college basketball, very simply stated, it takes some time to adjust to the speed of the game. So these 2-cent minds that want to try to tell me and you agreed with me, by the way, so I appreciate it. Mm-hmm. He had a totally different looking jump shot in high school. I watched him play in high school for 3 years, and that wasn't his strength with shooting, but he was a smooth enough shooter where you thought it would get better, and it got worse. It did not get worse at Notre Dame. It got worse after both of his injuries and being at Syracuse. That's the point that was made, and it is not up for discussion. So any of these 2-cent minds that want to misrepresent my stance, I got a problem with that. So I want to address that first, because I don't waste my time in the chat. But people send me screenshots of what stupid people say, so that needs to be addressed. JJ Starling, do you agree? And maybe you can say it in a more organized thought that JJ Starling had a better looking jump shot before the injury than after. Is that even up for discussion?
No, it's not up for discussion, of course. And actually, the jump shot has gotten worse from senior year, this current year, to junior year. Like every year, it's gotten worse. So I guess the only thing I'd add, Pat, is it's clearly a mental thing. We're in agreement on that, right? It's not like Red Autry said, hey, JJ, you need to change your jump shot, and because of his coaching, it's gone downhill. I think it's very clear that he's struggling mentally with the jump shot, and maybe it stems from the injuries. We don't know that, but it feels like there's got to be a reason why it went sideways, and since it's gone sideways, it's clearly a mental block. We see that at the free throw line.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's obviously, it's just like if a golf guy is struggling with his putt.
Yeah,
some people can say it's physical, some people can say it's mental. It's probably both. The other piece is, I brought up Jerry. It doesn't mean I want Jerry as the coach. All I'm saying is real simple. If he wins tomorrow night, it's going to be a little bit more interesting. And I understand what you're saying. Like, if he loses on a buzzer beater, he still had a great year. I just think if Jerry McNamara is in the tournament, look, you either graduate from college or you don't. It's the same thing with making the NCAA tournament. You either make it or you don't. So to me, it's that cut and dry. It's like the difference between winning a conference championship and not, when it's an automatic bid. So that doesn't mean I want Jerry. I mean, Jerry had a lot to do with some of the recruits that we were in the final two for, like Donovan Klingon and Andre Jackson, just to name two, which led to UConn's just amazing run over the last 10 years. I mean, people don't realize that Jerry McNamara was 2.5 hours late to Andre Jackson's house, and his dad got real irritated, and we were out. And that's a fact. And if Jim Boeheim wants to call, or Jerry McNamara, or any of these 2-cent minds in this chat want to question my validity, look it up, because it happens. I know it happened. I found out the day after it happened that it happened. So people want to come at me, bring it on. I really don't care, because honestly, I miss those days when it did matter. Right now, it doesn't even matter. We are sitting here talking about ADs and chancellors. I want to be talking about a double bye, and where is the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament? Is it in Boston or Buffalo or wherever it is? And we are so far away from that, and there's about 15 different things that we talked about on why it is. And I agree with your last 2 callers. They need to start ponying up, and the best coach is going to be who's going to bring in the most money and the most followers, the most support, the most confidence, and get this thing turned around. Because it started with Boeheim. And the last thing I want to push back with you on, Adrian Autry undeniably is one of the worst coaches in the country, and I can give you 15 reasons why, but I'll give you 3. His substitutions pattern, his motivation, his in-game decision, his record in the second half, his being outscored so bad in the second half, his demise of the season, and how his team got worse. How he said in the beginning of the year this was a top 5 defense in the country is laughable. And he had both me and you fooled. I had him in the top 30, and I think you had him in the top 50. So I guess we're all idiots. But the point of it is, Red.
On that, Pat, let me just, you push back. Let me push back real quick. I obviously, Red's track record is very spotty at this point. So I'm not, it's sort of weird to be advocating when we know that he's probably going to be getting fired this week, that he's a better coach than you're maybe believing. All I'm said and ever said is that I just feel that people don't have a great grasp for how tough it is right now to win at Syracuse, or how tough the spot was that Red was put in. So for you to say he's one of the worst coaches in the country, there's a lot of mid-major coaches. Like, do you think that some random mid-major coach would have been more successful in the last 3 seasons?
Yes, I do. Yes. If you take 2 examples just this year, Boston College and Hofstra, you switch the coaches, we win that game. Those coaches, we wouldn't want either one of those coaches. We would never.
You think Earl Grant would be more successful?
Yes, I do. I think Earl Grant is a better basketball coach than Adrian Autry. Yes, I do, and he proved it in the second half of that game.
I guess what I'm arguing is I don't think Earl Grant would have taken them to the tournament in the last 3 years. So ultimately, the fan base would have wanted him fired.
Fair.
Yeah,
that's a different statement. That's a different. I just think Red was put in a position where he wasn't going to succeed, and I think that's what we're both saying. But even if he was put in a cozy position, he's just not. He just cannot get it done. He cannot get it done,
and that's very fair.
And all I'm saying, and the last thing I'll say is from speaking to both these guys, and listening to everything that they've said on air and off air and everywhere else, Jerry McNamara can command a room better than Red, and that's not saying anything because I think Paulie can command a room better than Red. Thanks.
All right. There's the mic drop from Pat. We got to work in a timeout. We'll get to Dave in Syracuse as we return. You're listening to Drive Time.
When you need.
Oh, yeah. Pat was going there. Yeah, that's... Kyra, what are your takes? Here, you can hop on this mic if you'd like. When we're in break.
What?
Could you hear Pat, or I guess...
I couldn't. I heard, like, very, very faintly, but I heard it going on. I feel like following a historic Jim Boeheim is a huge shoe to fill.
Yeah, for sure.
Do I love Autry? No. Do I think he was the best candidate? Maybe, probably not.
Yeah.
But like Syracuse is very much keeping it in the family for every sport, for every position, admin, athletics,
absolutely.
Professor. Like it doesn't matter where it is. So it's always keeping it in the family. That's why people talk so much about our, the alumni, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Because that's where it comes from. Like we get people jobs because we have that, the connection of that. But like. I don't know. I think he could have handled himself better and, just having some balls to be like, I'm still the coach of this fucking basketball team.
Yeah.
And I don't think he
that's
has
what
that.
I think it's fair to say he doesn't really command the team or have a command over it. And I think, I think that's definitely a fair critique. I just want people to better understand. Some people just think he's like the worst coach ever.
Yeah.
And
it's that's not even some people lose.
There's more to it now. And that's what Red was saying in his presser. And it's obviously people are just going to yell at him when he makes that point. But that's all I'm trying to.
Point when he said that.
Yeah.
It's way different.
You understand because if you're around Syracuse, you have a better grasp of the NIL has to improve. There's things that go into it right now more than. I think
people think that it's just.
Yeah, I think 20 years ago we could just get on and critique coaching more, and there are some fans that are like it's all in the coach. But what Red's trying to say is if we don't have money, or this year they clearly had more money to spend, and
I think the only valid argument is how JJ's trajectory went down because that's a player that's been here for years.
Right.
You talk about wanting to keep.
And they needed him to be good.
4 years, whatever. Want them to improve.
Yeah.
Freshman, senior, whatever. That's a valid argument. But
right.
To all the transfers and all this person, they've been here for 8 months.
Right.
It's different.
Yeah, and some of the, Nate Kings he had a great year here, and William Kyle at his best. There was an article today. William Kyle thought he wasn't going to be a power conference player, and everyone loved him. So, yeah, there's some success stories, but unfortunately, JJ struggling this year, and them probably giving him a lot of money is a huge, it's tough. Oh no. Everything's good, right?
Yeah, and that's part of why I'm doing this, because I feel like a lot of fans can go off at the mouth about talk, but the NIL thing has completely changed everything about the sport, and it's only gonna get worse.
Yeah.
And that's a big reason why I wanted to do this. I wish I could the second source could be a fan, but I feel like that would be a mouth off and not
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard to tell the fans, the caller that I got was asking, I don't understand, it's $20.5 million. There's rev share, then there's NIL, and it's such a weird world. Yeah, it's hard to explain it all, I guess.
I feel like the few people might know are actual donors. I think a lot of them confuse,
yeah.
Oh, I support this team, so I'm helping their NIL, whereas these are genuine donors.
That'd be interesting if you got a donor, their perspective.
Right. ESPN 97.7 and 100.1. Watch live on CuseSportsTalk.com.
Final segment this afternoon on Drive Time. 437-7644 if you'd like to call in. This has turned into, as expected on a Monday, just me reacting to a bunch of callers. That's what we've been doing for the last couple months, it feels like. And maybe we will actually have some news when we talk to you next on Orange Nation about a potential athletic director. I'm looking forward to having some more news to react to. Let's go right back to the phone lines. Dave in Syracuse has been waiting patiently. Hey, Dave, how's it going?
Good, Tim. I'm glad you're reacting to callers. That means we're not indifferent yet.
True.
We're still
Good point.
passionate and emotional about our guys. So I want to make a quick comment before I get to the reason I called, Tim. Pat is a passionate SU fan, and I like listening to his opinions, and he's a good caller. But Adrian Autry is one of us, and I say us because I believe the fans are part of the Syracuse family. They're a big reason Syracuse basketball is what it is, because of the fans that show up. There's no reason. Adrian's gone. His time here was a failure. It didn't go the way we wanted. There's no reason to insult him. A comment like Paulie Holder room better than Adrian Autry. Pat, you got to be better than that. But that's my comment. The reason I called, though, was in regards to JJ. Tim, I have this thing called trigger finger. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I bend my finger, it clicks, and it kind of goes in and out at the knuckle. I swear to God, when I see JJ take his jump shot, it looks like his shoulder clicks almost. There's definitely something physical to his problem, and there's no doubt there's things that are mental too. But it almost looks like as if in the last 2 years, maybe after his operation, that hitch is almost like a click in his shoulder, and there's no doubt in my mind.
I will say, Dave, I don't think he's ever had a surgery of any sort on his shoulder, but I understand what you're getting at. Yeah, just for a point of fact, my knowledge is he's never had like a true shoulder surgery, but obviously he's had injuries there that he's tried to recover from, and certainly that's contributing to it, you would have to think.
Sure, yeah. I actually tore my shoulder muscle also. I didn't have the surgery.
Yeah.
But I can't reach to a certain point anymore because of it, even with physical therapy. So something's happened there that has actually affected his jump shot. But Steve mentioned on the earlier show also, JJ's in a mental position now. He doesn't even want to get fouled. He does not want to go to that free throw line. And I don't know, and when his strength is his game going to the basket, when he's actually trying to avoid contact rather than going hard to the basket, because I don't think he wants to shoot free throws either, it makes it almost impossible for him to be out there at this point. And that's a terrible thing for him. I really feel bad, and I agree that it's both physical and mental at this point. We'll see what happens tomorrow, but at this point, I mean, my last thing was a question to you, Tim. Have you heard anything in regards to Cayenne and Sadiq and their availability tomorrow?
I have not. I would hope that they're available tomorrow. I mean, there might be an ACC injury report that I could look up before we sign off. I think that's going to be coming out tonight, so it's probably not out yet. Yeah, it looks like nothing yet on that front. I don't know, Dave. I mean, my hope is that maybe it was something where they just needed, it's possible they were playing through an injury for the last little bit, and this game against Pitt didn't necessarily matter at all, really, for Syracuse. So they just said, let's rest them and get them right for the ACC tournament. That could be just connecting dots that aren't there. I'm just speculating, but let's hope that that's the case, because it'd be good to have them tomorrow.
For sure. Certainly Sadiq. I'd like to see him play, and it's the one guy we for sure want back for next year, and I just like him to get as much game action as he can and experience.
All right, thanks, Dave. We appreciate you checking in.
All right, bye.
There's Dave in Syracuse. That's going to wrap up the show this afternoon, and I will not be on the air tomorrow because we will all be watching the game around this time tomorrow. It is a 4:30 start. I say we will all be watching the game. Maybe some of you have checked out of the games, but the game will be on our airwaves. We will have pregame and postgame with Kyle tomorrow, so no drive time tomorrow. But I should be back on Wednesday. Assuming they lose the game, then I will have my normal show on Wednesday. If they win, then we'll be having pregame and postgame during this time slot again on Wednesday. And I will be doing shows the rest of the week. And I'm sure that we will have a lot to react to the next time that I am on Drive Time, whether that is new AD, new coaching news, or just reacting to Syracuse in the ACC tournament as well. But that's going to wrap it up for today's show. Thanks to all of you in the Q Sports Talk chat. Thanks to all of you on the YouTube chat as well. And you can always watch our shows on YouTube or QSportsTalk.com. And thanks to all of you for calling in, too, as well as Kyle for producing and fighting our call screener, which was just giving us fits all day today. So if you could not get through on the phone lines today, hopefully the call screener will be better tomorrow. We will have Orange Nation tomorrow. Paulie will be remote from the ACC tournament with Steve. So we have that to look forward to tomorrow. We'll talk to you then on ESPN Radio and QSportsTalk.com.
This